All right, friends, don't adjust your dial. You got the B team tonight. Trace Trelko taking advantage of that luxurious Sons of UCF PTO. But no worries, I am joined by some of your favorites. UCF Mike has made a return, and a Palm Frond has made a return. Oh, it's Brian W. Peterson.
Hey,
Look at this. What a crew. Mike, Brian, thanks for hopping in. How you guys feeling? Big win last night versus Texas. You're proud UCF alums. Did you ever think of the day we'd be talking about a Knights basketball team beating Texas, Mike?
No, I believe Kansas and Texas were the two teams that won the regular season and the Big 12 tournament last year, and we've already beat them both in the first 4 Big 12 games. Pretty incredible start for Johnny Dawkins.
Brian Peterson, horns down.
it is all downhill from here, guys. Unfortunately,
What?
it's all downhill from here. We're going to get way too hyped up for this team, and they're going to let us down the stretch. But it's been fun. I'm really enjoying the team so far.
All right, well, I'm glad Brian's about to piss in our Cheerios, and as we talk basketball tonight, we're going to get back to hoops in just a second. I want to get your thoughts, obviously, on the game, a lot of reaction post-game. I have some sound I want to play, but let's do some quick football off the top, and maybe surprising news. I don't know if you guys were, or both of you, or any of you were surprised by this, but UCF has named Ted Roof as defensive coordinator. He's a veteran D coordinator, most recently with Oklahoma. Appears Addison Williams is sliding into a co-DC role and will retain associate head coach position, and not really announced publicly except on social media. Anthony Kinsey takes over as director of football strength and conditioning. So Brian, I'll start with you. What do you make of these moves, specifically a new defensive coordinator and Addison Williams kind of sliding over now and sharing the chair?
Yeah, I think it was a little shocking. Once we heard the news that he was going to be coming on, Coach Roof was going to be coming on and taking over that defensive coordinator role. The guy's got a lot of experience. He's been a coach for many years. I don't know how this is going to affect Addison Williams's role in the defense moving forward. They're calling him co-DC now. Seems a little odd. The timing seems a little odd to me. We've only had 1 year of Coach Williams being the defensive coordinator. He had a cupboard that really wasn't stocked full of players to play with. So I don't know that you can lay the defensive woes that the team struggled with last year on him. But at the same time, bringing in somebody to help, shore up that defense, I don't see that as a bad thing. I'm just curious as to how the timing and how this is going to play out once we get to the 24 season.
Mike, and most surprising news of all time, you were actually apparently in the Ted Roof fan club. I did not have this on my bingo card, UCF Mike and Ted Roof as a tandem, but you appear to be all in favor of the Ted Roof hire at UCF.
I don't know if I was in favor of Ted Roof as much as I was in favor of a change being made as defensive coordinator. Addison Williams last year showed he was not really ready to be a defensive coordinator. And to bring in a guy like Ted Roof, who has plenty of experience, has won a national championship working alongside Gus. He's a disciple of George O'Leary, and we've been calling for a George O'Leary defense here ever since he left. I mean, let's be honest, we've been an offensive team since 2016. I'd love to get back to that hard-nosed defense that can stop the run. If this guy can bring that, I'm all for it, man. I don't know. I don't care if it's Ted Roof or anybody else, but the defense definitely needed to improve, and this guy looks like he can do it.
Mike, are you concerned at all about the output that Ted Roof had at Oklahoma the past 2 seasons? They weren't exactly a defensive juggernaut. Does that concern you at all, knowing that he's going to stay in this very same Big 12 he was in at Oklahoma and he struggled there?
No, not as much. Oklahoma went through some head coaching changes the last couple of years, so I don't know how familiar he was working with Venables and how much the talent has dropped off on Oklahoma ever since they lost their coach. So I think their team overall has taken a step back. But I think at least he has the experience. He has way more experience than Addison Williams. He's been around the block a bunch of times. I don't think it can hurt. And let's say this: Addison Williams is still on the staff. It's not like we fired him. He's still there. He's still recruiting. He's still doing all the stuff. So he's just not going to be calling the defense on game day.
Roof feels like a witness protection name, if you ask me. Brian, when I think about strength and conditioning, I think about you. So what do you make of Anthony Kinsey coming in as strength and conditioning coordinator, director? I know it's kind of an under the radar move. It wasn't really announced. Do you think that has any impact on UCF? And do you have any sense that this is going to maybe change some of the ways that UCF will run their offense or defense?
I doubt that we're going to see a change in the running of the offense or the defense as a result of this hire. But I mean, it's always good to have, a fresh set of eyes to come in, and, strength and conditioning with the football team is something that, you want to rely on. We want to make sure our guys aren't getting injured, that they're able to, play 4 quarters. So if this guy is going to come in and he's going to get our players, juiced up, ready to go, I'm all for it.
I don't know about juiced up, Brian. I'm not sure that may be against the rules, but we'll worry about that later. All right, fellas, let's get back to UCF in Texas. Obviously, a nice win for UCF. Jalen Sellers had 24. Shamari Allen chipped in 17. But all anybody wants to talk about is what happened post-game. And if you're not familiar, let's check out, I guess, the internet's new favorite head coach. That's Rodney Terry.
I'm a big believer in, you win the right way, you lose the right way. And, I always tell my guys, whether you win or lose, you win the right way. You lose the right way. You carry yourself the right way. You don't go through the handshake line or prior to getting to the handshake line and have about 6 or 7 guys putting the horns down. We don't do that, because when you do those kind of things, it looks very classless, and it also looks like you were just hoping to win. We never go into games trying to hope to win. We go into games expecting to win. So we don't act like that. We expect to win. We don't jump up and down like we won a national championship. We sure don't step on anyone's home court deal and act crazy and try to show them up in any way. We don't do that. So that's what I was angry about. And I was letting those guys know you don't do that. You guys won. Hey, we shake your hand, tip our hat to you, but we're not going to let you act that way in our building. You're not going to do that. You're not going to put your horns down and do all that nonsense.
All right, which of you two wants to bury this clown first? Mike, I'll start with you.
But the first thing out of his mouth is win the right way, lose the right way. The guy went out like a lunatic and started cursing at the players in front of everybody. Obviously very upset that his team blew a 16-point lead at home, and maybe his emotions got the best of him. Maybe I can see people agreeing with him. You don't want to taunt the other team and stuff, but you win, you get to do what you want. And he should have, if he had a problem with it, he should have said something to Dawkins. I don't know about cursing at the kids on the team.
Well, he didn't. I mean, so the players, the video that's there, they were essentially putting the horns down to each other. They weren't near any Texas players, rather. They were talking amongst themselves, and he happened to be walking along the line. Brian, what did you make of the whole horns down gate scandal? What do you make of Rodney Terry's comments and sort of even the way Coach Dawkins, kind of handled afterwards, saying, hey, we'll look at this, we'll address it. What do you make of the whole kerfluffle that took place?
I've never been a big fan of Texas getting so worked up over this horns down nonsense. They take it so personally. And last night was just another example of that. They pushed the Big 12 into allowing penalties to be called if players did the horns down on the field. It's ridiculous. If you want to fight the horns down, you got to win the games that you're in. It's plain and simple. They lost. We did some horns down. It really wasn't a big deal until he made it a big deal. I didn't see anything that our players did that was classless. I think he was way out of line, and I'm happy for the way the game ended. And you know what? We won. We get to throw the horns down.
If he didn't like that hand gesture, he really wouldn't have liked what I was doing to the TV when I couldn't find the Longhorn Network. That's what we really should be. We would have been talking about that today, about how we weren't even able to watch this game because of the stupid network this school makes us follow.
Well, I'm curious to get our first guest opinion of this, because he covers Texas, but I know he spent a lot of time in Orlando. Returning to the show, our favorite, Eric Henry from 24/7 Sports and horns247.com joins us. Eric, first off, man, thanks for hopping in, and thanks for dressing up. I feel underdressed.
Not a problem, fellas. I couldn't help but chuckle when I heard UCF Mike talk about the Longhorn Network, because I saw his tweet last night that made me laugh. And I just came from a late availability, not a Rodney Terry availability, but women's coach Vic Schaefer. So came over from Moody Center, and I'm still in my coat here. So.
Well, look, you wear it well, Eric. And let me start with this first question. I know we'll probably get to the controversy later on, but I want to start with the game first. How surprised were you with the result of this game? Again, I know you keep an eye on UCF sports and basketball. You saw the big win against Kansas, but you're around Texas every day. How surprised were you at this result, just from an actual basketball standpoint?
It's kind of a two-pronged answer, guys, because when Texas went up 22-6, I really thought, like, okay, they've learned from their mistakes. This is not the first time that Texas has gone up big on teams. And specificity in Big 12 play, you take a look at their 3 losses, or I guess the 2 losses prior to the UCF game. They went up 7 points on Texas Tech, went up early against West Virginia, but had trouble to close leads. So RT and his Zoom availability was really harp on the fact that, hey, I want these guys to hone in on playing defense for 40 minutes. And that was the thing when they went up 22-6, and especially the fact that Jalen Sellers came off the bench. It was kind of speculated that he may not have been healthy. Johnny Dawkins after the game said that he didn't get a chance to fully practice in the lead up to the game. So that's why he didn't start him. It seemed like, okay, Texas has learned from their lesson and they're going to, essentially kind of close out this game. But this is more of what we've seen from the Longhorns all year. They go through these scoreless stretches, and we saw in the second half when Jalen Sellers came out and, him and Shamari Allen, Darius Johnson, the 3 guards that RT talked about and said that, hey, we got to be able to account for these guys in the second half. When Texas went through that 5-minute scoreless stretch, we turned to, the members of the media who cover this team day in, day out, said, here it goes again. And sure enough, they allowed UCF to hang around, and the Knights wound up leaving Moody Center with a victory. So to answer your question, was I surprised? I was surprised that they didn't learn from their previous mistakes, but once you saw it happening in action, not too shocked at all.
Eric, where do you see this Longhorns team going down the stretch here? They're now sitting at 12-5 overall. They're towards the bottom of the Big 12, below UCF, which I'm sure you guys didn't have that on the bingo card. Where do you see this Longhorns team going here for the remainder of the season?
This was a crucial 4-game stretch, because if you want to say quote unquote easy stretch of the Big 12 schedule, this was it, right? You got Texas Tech was dealing with Pop Isaacs and his off the court situation. West Virginia was 5-10 entering that game. First year Big 12 clubs in Cincinnati and UCF. And they went 1-3. Now they got 6 straight games against ranked opponents. 3 of those teams are in the top 10. This thing could get really ugly. I know we're going to talk about Rodney Terry in the post game in a second, but I quite frankly, I think part of his post game reaction, the handshake line, was a byproduct of the fact that he knows his team squandered a big opportunity in the Big 12, because to expect them to rattle off even a 3-3 mark against these 6 straight ranked opponents, that's asking a lot of a team that hasn't shown that this year. So to be honest with you, I mean, like, as I said, this thing could get very ugly in a hurry. They have Baylor on Saturday, 11 a.m. tip-off, number 9 team in the nation. And if they don't get that one, there's a chance that, listen, you could be talking about a 1-win in conference Texas team, and they get into the latter stretch of the Big 12 schedule. And then, you really have to ask questions about Rodney Terry's job security, someone who really got this job, his dream job, being a native Texan, because of the way he handled his team last year. But if they can't, pull out at least 2 wins or 3 wins in this stretch, it's going to be, fans are already upset here in Austin, and the temperature is just going to be, increase even more if the slide continues.
I know you're a professional and you're working for the Longhorns, but deep down, you are a UCF guy. How are you feeling? Did you have a smile you were trying to hold back all night after the win?
Mike, let me clarify something. I don't work for UT. I don't get a paycheck from UT. So let's just clarify. I get a paycheck from CBS that mandates I wear a blazer or at least sleeves. They are not fan of me not wearing sleeves on these, video appearances that I do. But to answer your question, here's the thing, man. I mean, once a night, always a night. I'm a guy who parlayed, very minimal skills outside of writing and talking into earning a sustainable living covering sports. So, I can't beat that. I was getting some jabs. I was getting some playful jabs from the guys on the beat who know that I'm a UCF grad. Some people were saying, charge on to me as we're going down. So sure. I mean, in one sense, I mean, I'll say this to you, Mike. I go back to Big 12 media days, football media days, when they played the UCF fight song as the Knights were introduced in the Big 12. Of course, there's part of me that is warm inside, right? Because, I, as a UCF grad of 2014, going back to the AAC and CUSA days, you never thought that moment would be possible. But, I get a check, so I'm able to low-key keep it objective and kind of do the job. But again, I'm a guy who turned minimal skills into getting paid to watch sports for a living, and there's not a better job than that.
Eric, I know you stay close to, obviously, the Big 12. What does it say about UCF that they've already beaten Kansas and Texas? I don't think anybody would have had that on their bingo card of UCF having these 2 wins early on. What do you think this says about the UCF basketball team and Johnny Dawkins and sort of how they're going to fit in the rest of the season for the Big 12?
It's huge. It's huge. Listen, I'll admit, again, you talked about it. I still, follow UCF sports. I'm a Knight, right? So when I saw them lose to Stetson, I was like, okay, this is going to get rough, especially losing to Donnie Jones, who, I'll try to keep the objectivity here, but I was not a big Donnie Jones guy during the entirety of my UCF career. So losing to Stetson, I was like, okay, this could be a rough Big 12 slate. You flip it, and now all of a sudden they've beaten Kansas, beaten the defending conference tournament champions in Texas. You have to feel that, the stock of UCF is upward, because when we talked with the guys post-game, Shamari Allen, Jalen Sellers, they said, listen, the Kansas game definitely showed us that if we play our best basketball, we can compete with how they feel anyone in this conference. So again, because of how strong this conference is, I didn't, recommend anyone take a look at ESPN's remaining strength of schedule. It's all 14 Big 12 clubs. Of the top 16 teams in the nation, all 14 Big 12 teams are in it. If UCF can go 8-8 or even 7-9 in Big 12 play and get a win in the conference tourney, then you got to feel really good about their chances of making the NCAA tournament. And that's not something that I expected at all after the Stetson loss. So yeah, I think this team, the future is definitely bright, and the immediate future is bright. Something that, again, I didn't see at the onset of the year.
Eric, being a UCF alum and covering the Longhorns, let's get into it. What were your thoughts on the Horns down? And did being there, did you see UCF players acting inappropriately? Did you think that the UCF team was wrong? What are your thoughts on Coach Terry's reaction?
Sure. No, I mean, I'll get right into the UCF players' reaction. I'll shout out Tyler Feldman of KVU Sports, the ABC affiliate here in Austin, who got the video initially. Listen, when we had a chance to see his video, and I'll shout out Eric DeSalvo, I got a chance to watch the video that he shot post-game. It was very clear that the Horns down was not directed. They weren't going through the handshake line saying, hey, Dylan Dessou, Horns down. That wasn't what they were doing. They were doing it to themselves, celebrating the victory, and then also to the crowd. So there's that. And big picture, guys, the thing that stunned me most, and I took a little bit of flack post-game when I said that Rodney Terry gave a passionate response. What I meant when I said passionate was in juxtaposed to the Rodney Terry we get every day, which is a guy who's very buttoned up and doesn't get emotional about anything. So to hear him go off for a minute, when quite frankly, when I asked him the question, I did ask him the question, his thoughts about Horns down. I thought he was going to give a non-answer. I thought we were going to get a standard RT answer, something that was very close to what Johnny Dawkins said. So to see him go off just caught me off guard. But to bigger point, guys, Steve Sarkisian, Texas football coach, from day one, he talked about the Big 12 farewell tour and the fact that he's talked with his guys about the fact that it's the last year in the Big 12 and they're going to get every team's best shot. And going into opposing stadiums, they're going to get the Horns down. And it even feels like, in talking with Vic Schaefer, the women's coach, and some of the other coaches on campus, that everyone's cognizant of the fact that, hey, we're Texas, we're leaving the Big 12. We're going to expect to hear more than usual kind of jeers. So the fact that Rodney Terry, kind of reacted this way, guys, I got to be honest with you. I think this was more indicative, and I will be curious to see when we speak with RT again tentatively on Friday what his thoughts are. If he feels this way now 40 hours removed from the game, because I feel like that was more directed to the fact that he is in his dream job, again, a Texas native who earned this job after being at Fresno State and UTEP prior, and is now 1-3 in conference with a team that's very talented. I think the only thing that RT probably regrets is swearing at the players. I mean, that I'll ask him about that Friday, but that didn't come off well at all. So yeah, the UCF players were not in the wrong at all. And just in the fact that everyone is, this is Horns down is not, this is not new, so the fact that and RT reacted this way just really was surprising. And quite frankly, I think he'll regret it when we speak with him tomorrow.
What's been the Texas fans' reaction to his answer that last night? Have they kind of gotten behind them and say, yeah, nobody does the Horns down? Or are they kind of saying, hey, you should have beat them or else they wouldn't have done it?
Here's the second part of why this backfired on RT. If this was meant to galvanize the fan base to say, hey, Texas pride, it didn't work. I wrote a feature for Horns 24/7 today saying that, Rodney Terry doesn't have a Horns down problem. He has a winning problem. The majority of the posts on the board were saying, no, Texas doesn't have a winning problem. They have a Rodney Terry problem. Again, talk about the fact that, for anyone who may not know, he was not the head coach of this team. Obviously, Chris Beard was the head coach of this team last year. He ended up losing that job due to an off-court situation, a domestic incident with his partner, right? And RT takes the job and leads the team to the Elite Eight. But Texas fans weren't necessarily sold on Rodney Terry being the full-time hire. So in terms of the reaction after this, no, it's been 90-10. You should beat UCF. The majority of fans on our message boards and even on Twitter, and I did radio earlier today, 1300 here in Austin, the people who were calling in were saying, no, we're not upset. That's what teams do when they beat Texas. We're not upset at this. Beat UCF, especially considering the fact that, again, guys, this wasn't some buzzer beater. They were up 16 points. So, yeah, if this was an effort by RT to galvanize the fan base, it backfired. And the thing that's really interesting is he has a history of this. You go back, RT had a loss against Rice when he was at UTEP. And, shout out to my buddy Adrian Broadus of the ESPN outlet now out in El Paso. He shot me the audio of RT saying virtually the same thing when Rice had a kerfuffle at UTEP's home court. So this clearly is something that's personal to him. But if it was an effort to say, hey, we're going to get UT fans behind me, it backfired tremendously.
Eric, I want to switch to football really quickly. I know, again, you covered the Big 12, Texas, Oklahoma, big rivalry. UCF announced this week, kind of surprising, Ted Roof is taking over as defensive coordinator. Previously, the last 2 years at Oklahoma, they weren't exactly a defensive juggernaut. What do you make of this move for UCF to bring in a second time, by the way, Ted Roof, who was here famously for a month back in 2011? What do you make of the hire now of Ted Roof to UCF? What do you think that does for their defense? And what do you think he brings to sort of kind of the Big 12, being that he's kind of struggled a little bit at Oklahoma so far?
Yeah, I mean, I was a little bit stunned and surprised when I saw Ted Roof heading to Orlando to, again, I obviously know UCF fans frustrated with Addison Williams and the way the defense has been, and obviously frustration over the past few years. You can go back to, the days of second half Randy Shannon versus first half Randy Shannon, right? And with that, but Ted Roof, if the argument is, hey, we want a veteran defensive mind, someone who you kind of know what they are, I get it, but Ted Roof isn't much of an inspiring hire in my mind. Listen, here's the thing. Ted Roof, for the most part, it's a three-man front. And in today's college football, even though you may show a three-man front, you're going to get four rushers, right? It's just a matter of where's that fourth guy coming from. And he'll do some things, he did some things at Oklahoma, specifically against Texas, that they'll play with, the buck ends a little bit, kind of do some things with the joker role and kind of disguise who they're going to rush, right? But that's not revolutionary in today's college football. I mean, again, a veteran mind, if you're just looking for someone to kind of come in and mentor Addison Williams and we kind of bring him along, I get it. But yeah, Danny Stutzman made a lot of that defense this year for Oklahoma. Caleb Downs. And it wasn't even a great Oklahoma defense. The plays that they did make, you had, maybe a dark horse All-American, but definitely an all Big 12 linebacker in Danny Stutzman. There was nothing that Ted Roof did in my mind. And I don't want to come down, too hard on him. We'll see what the situation is. But I guess what surprised me most about it is I felt like if you're going to go away from Addison Williams, you'd kind of bring in, maybe a bit of a younger defensive mind, someone who has, some schemes that they do. But Ted Roof is just running a, for lack of a better phrase, a vanilla 3-4 defense. Again, they'll do something with the buck ends, and we'll see if Gus Malzahn does want to, I'll be interested for UCF fans, who's calling the defense? Because Ted Roof didn't call it all the time at Oklahoma. It was Brent Venables. So we'll see again if the schemes are doing some things with the ends, with the jokers, and kind of disguising blitzes. That's not revolutionary. I don't think that's going to do much, for UCF. So that was my initial reaction was, okay, that's interesting.
Eric, there's been a lot of chatter on social media about, this is Gus bringing in another one of his guys that he's worked with in the past. You mentioned that he's been around for a long time and he's got that experience. I mean, do you see this as perhaps them bringing in somebody to provide a little bit of, extra experience to help Addison get his hands on the role as we move forward in the Big 12? And, he'll eventually, Addison Williams will step back into that full defensive coordinator role. I mean, is that what it looks like to you? What do you see?
That's my feeling. I mean, if that is the intent behind the hire, I can understand it. I would just caution Knights fans, if you're expecting someone to come in and just, be completely revolutionary or overhaul the defense, that's not what you're getting in Ted Roof. Ted Roof is a guy who stabilizes things. Ted Roof is a guy, in my mind, who, if you have players there, he can put them in positions to succeed. That's a great thing. But Ted Roof is not going to come in and just overwhelm you with schemes. Again, with that 3-man front, it's running a 3-man front in today's college football. You're going to get that fourth rusher from somewhere, right? And most teams can kind of pick it up. It's how exotic can you be in that? And that's not his history of running that defense. So, if the impetus behind this hire is to give Addison Williams someone who he can learn from and learn a litany of defensive schemes, I get it. But in the immediacy for this team, it is interesting. So I'll be very interested to see A, who calls this defense, if it's going to be Ted Roof or Addison Williams, and B, kind of what that looks like on game day. Because again, if it's putting players in a specific position, that can be hit or miss. If it's saying, hey, I've got a Danny Stutzman or a Caleb Downs or guys like that, then that's one thing. But, again, we'll see. Time will tell.
I think everybody was shocked when you showed up here and you were wearing sleeves. First of all, when was the last time you measured your arms? How big are they? And okay, answer that first. I know you know.
Come on, Mike. I don't go around measuring the arms. I'll just say this. If we're talking about getting on the bench press, I can throw up 315 half a dozen times. So we'll just do that. But it makes buying these coats off the rack rather difficult. That's the humble flex I'll give.
And our friend Robert, he's dying to know if you're reading the chat. He offered $100 if you take the jacket off and show off the guns.
All right, Robert, this is for you.
Yeah.
Since Robert, I don't have a tank on underneath. All right, I've got a white shirt on underneath, but like I said, CBS they made it known that they frown on the sleeveless look, so they've kind of mandated that I wear sleeves. Shout out to the bosses, Kevin Ryan, Taylor Estes, UC. Sleeve exit.
Hey, Kevin.
That's what you got from me.
All right, Eric, we'll get you out of here in this one. Project the rest of the season out at when it's all said and done in basketball. Who's going to have a better record in conference, Texas or UCF?
I don't see why you can't say UCF at this point. They already are off to a better start in conference. And again, Texas, guys, 6 straight ranked opponents. Quite frankly, the last ranked opponent that they played, they were, severely throttled against Marquette. That was not a win a loss that showed that Texas, at least at that point in time, this is going back into November in Milwaukee, that they could compete with top 25 opponents. You lose these games going 1-3 in conference. It's going to be a struggle, guys. I mean, Kelvin Sampson, Houston, trust me, guys. And that's another thing that made the horns down thing so curious. You think UCF is one thing. You don't think Baylor fans up in Waco want to give them a nice farewell to the Big 12? That's an hour and a half away. Houston, TCU. So this could be the start of something. I would have to see something in terms of a better defensive play from Texas to feel that they're going to finish better. But if we're just talking about trajectory, I see UCF's confidence ascending. In Texas right now, they need a spark, and it's got to come either from their head coach or some of the veterans who they've brought in.
Eric Henry's a fantastic follow on Twitter if you just love college sports, college athletics in general. He's he's a Knight, but he does a great job covering Texas. Eric, you're always there for us when we need you, buddy. Appreciate you, and we'll catch up with you real soon, okay?
Anytime, fellas. Take care.
Thanks, Eric.
Henry, appreciate you. All right, guys, what do you think? Mike, are his arms bigger than yours?
Oh, definitely. I've seen this guy in person for sure. Now, my arms are a lot smaller than they were 20 years ago, so I don't know if that's really saying that much.
Okay, fair enough. I don't know what to do with that. Brian, you have a shooting sleeve on. Are you getting up shots later, or what's going on?
I do have a shooting sleeve on.
You getting up shots after the game?
Nice. Yeah. I got to work on my game.
All right, I'm gonna have Ben assess your form here later on in the show. But before we do that again, UCF with a big one on Saturday against Houston. Doesn't get any easier. And then Tuesday we're home against West Virginia. Hey guys, are you covering the Big 12? Are you watching the Big 12 closely? Because if you're not, don't worry, we've got you covered with Jeff Allen.
I'm back at it this week after my failed attempt to become the AJ Hawk of this show. I was unable to keep a dopey stone look on my face for minutes at a time, and trying to smoke a cigar nearly made me puke. Besides, I have more fun doing this segment, especially since the first 2 weeks of Big 12 basketball action have been nothing short of glorious. Coming up this weekend, there will be a couple ranked matchups on Saturday as number 24 Iowa State visits number 19 TCU. The Horned Frogs are coming off an overtime loss at Cincinnati on Tuesday. That'll be a 2 o'clock tip on ESPNU. Number 25 Texas Tech will play host to number 20 BYU. You can catch that one at 6 p.m. on ESPN2. In other Big 12 action, number 9 Baylor takes on Texas. Horns down, 12 noon on ESPN. Cincinnati entertains number 15 Oklahoma, 1 o'clock on ESPN Plus. Third-rate Kansas is at West Virginia, 4 o'clock on ESPN Plus. Oklahoma State takes on Kansas State, 7 o'clock on ESPN Plus. And UCF continues its Texas two-step as they renew their old AAC rivalry with number 5 Houston. 2 o'clock is the start time for that one on ESPN Plus. With your Big 12 minutes, I'm Jeff Allen.
That was the classless Jeff Allen, who's also throwing up the horns down. I apologize you had to see that on your airways, everybody. But let's talk a little bit more hoops. A guy who has been very optimistic about UCF basketball in the face of the pessimism that has been the Sons of UCF, and he's proven to be correct so far. He's also proving again that we are very underdressed. It is Ben Hazel is back for another week, bow tie and shirt on as always. Ben, appreciate you, man. Hope all is well.
Oh, all is great on this end. You see the pink. I'm wearing the pink for represent my sensitive side. You know,
okay.
I thought it was appropriate for the moment.
Some people in their feels. Yes. Some people in their feels last night, Ben. I was in my feels because that was a damn good basketball game. That UCF was down early and they make a run, they come back. What propelled them to that victory? It looked bleak for a while, down 16. What do you think could have was that spark that got UCF over the hump and got them the victory at the end?
It was the defensive end. I mean, that's the thing with us. I'm like, we haven't done anything spectacular. I made that Georgetown Villanova reference, which was just back to when Villanova was a major underdog in a national championship and won after playing a perfect game against the superior Georgetown team. We haven't even done that. All we're doing is just playing good defense. That's literally what happened. That changed the entire game. I was tracking the stats during the game. They were shooting about 60% until about that 15, 14-minute mark in the second half. So once we strapped down, we did what we normally do. We really got to give some respect to Shamari. We've had all these picks of underdogs and his name hasn't come up enough. So, you know, I'm going to personally apologize to him for not putting him on the radar the way that he deserves after Texas. He is on notice. So I'm glad the guys did what they did. We played a complete game, which I'm really happy about. They're playing with that passion, and I think they're starting to figure out the blueprint to give themselves a chance to win.
Ben, what are you seeing from this UCF basketball team? Now we've had, a couple games back to back where we've been down double digits, and Johnny Dawkins has not let this team fold. They've come back and they've won these games. How much does that help build confidence moving further on down the season?
Oh, he talked about it after the game. He said you guys believed throughout the entire game. And that's what I talked about before the season, how they handle adversity. It's moments like that we saw. We've seen it in every game. We just responded to it differently. We saw it against Kansas State, and then that ended up ballooning from, 12 to 15 all the way up to 20. We saw it against Kansas. We saw it against Texas. Not so much against BYU, but really just keeping that confidence and understanding the plan that you drew up going into this game will give you the best chance to win. That doesn't mean it's going to be perfect and through every moment. It means that at the end of the 40, you should come out victorious if you can continue to stay focused on executing.
What can we do to keep ourselves from not getting into those holes to begin with?
That's going to be tough. I mean, I really think what falls behind is our offensive end. The defensive thing, teams will hit shots from time to time, but that kind of evens out throughout the game as long as they keep the pressure on. For us, what changes as far as the tide is we just start shooting it a little bit better. We kind of actually follow the Houston blueprint. We're going to strap you down. We're going to rebound it and out-tough you. And as long as we can make a few shots, we just need to have more points than you. That's it.
The 16-point comebacks have been crazy, but I think to me more impressive is the way they finished off both those games. The poise they showed, the execution down the stretch, I mean, getting the balls in bounds, things, hitting the free throws, all that stuff's been very well done.
I have to agree. I mean, Darius, we talked about this a lot, was what you typically see from good teams in the point guard spot is you'll see guys that don't necessarily average too much, but what they do is they make shots when the teams need it most. And that's exactly what he did yesterday. Shamari was able to figure some things out. So really what it's looking like for us offensively, we just need about 2-3 guys to figure it out and then just continue to be physical on the defensive end. because we've really just kind of roughed some teams off, which is, I think shocked a lot of teams that we're not just trying to come in as a new team similar to a BYU where you come in, you're running a lot of offense, want to shoot a lot of threes, things like that. We're coming purely with heart. We're being extremely physical, killing teams on the glass, and that's why we've been victorious. And I can't say enough how proud I am of them. And no matter what another team's coach might say, I'm with them.
Ben, am I crazy? I thought the Shamari Allen head top dunk was a catalyst that really sparked the offense, got everyone kind of hyped up. Am I just inventing that? Is that just a myth that like something like that gets a fire under a team?
No, you are 100% spot on. When you see one of your teammates really, do something spectacular or really just kind of, it's really disrespectful when you got a smaller guy that does that to a bigger guy. You look at everybody on their team like, yes, that's how we're playing. And yes, you're about to see more of that. So yes, it provides a spark. And that's exactly what he did. He started to get some steals, got in the passing lanes. One thing that I think we downplay or don't talk about enough is we have an elite athletic team on the court at all times. Like we're seeing guards going to the basket like Shamari dunking it with two hands. You see CJ Walker catch a dunk early. You got Omar coming off the bench. You got Ibrahim on the court. So we got a lot of athleticism that I don't think we really gave enough respect to that these other teams are learning the hard way.
But I also find it interesting. It feels like late in games, Coach Dawkins is putting DJ off the ball and Shamari is the primary ball handler. What's the reasoning behind that in your opinion?
I think it allows him to do what we talked about a little bit earlier, where he can make timely shots without having to worry about protecting the ball, getting everybody in the right spot. That's a lot to digest, especially for a whole 40. So I think he found the right mix of having him start on the ball, being able to create plays, get into his flow, but down the stretch, he's most effective off the ball. He made a huge three and then made that little leaner down the stretch. And that's exactly what you want out of your point guard. And just the luxury of having Shamari in the game is that you do have that option of taking him off the ball, even though it comes right to him.
Ben, let's look ahead. We've got Houston on the schedule next. What do you want to see? What are the keys that you think are going to be important when it comes to giving UCF a chance to win this game?
It's a little bit different in years past, and I'm really excited about it because it seems to me like it's like a strength on strength. Houston can't score either. So it's really going to come down to if we can handle the glass, be extremely physical, match their physicality, we can make free throws and not turn the ball over, we'll win.
Ben, you got me excited. This team has me excited. I'm ready to dust off the dancing shoes, get ready for March Madness. How many more wins do we need? If we're checking it off, how many more do we have to get to the tournament?
The number that I would shoot for in the conference is the only thing that matters for us. I would shoot at 7 or 8. And the only reason I even go below 500 to give you a chance is because we play the Houstons. We play a lot of really highly ranked teams. So if we can kind of have a really good record against them, you can even get in with have a chance to get in being below 500. But I think being 500 in the conference will guarantee you a spot in the tournament.
All right, Ben, let's talk about the post game. Obviously, Rodney Terry got a little in his feels and went to a podium and cursed at some kids, yada, yada, yada. I'll get to that in a second. But Coach Dawkins got asked a question. And to be fair to him, it didn't sound like he had seen what had happened or sort of knew what happened. And he said he would address it with his team. Please tell me we're not going to discipline anybody on UCF for what they, quote unquote, did on Wednesday night. Please tell me Coach Dawkins is not going to discipline anybody for that.
Oh, I'll tell you exactly how it goes. This isn't literally what happened, but I'll tell you how it goes. It'll go, you guys aren't supposed to do that, but you're 100% right. Horns down. Good win. Good win. Let's go to the next gym and let's have the next coach cry about what we did after we beat him.
That's my ball coach. All right, what do you make of Rodney Terry? I know Eric Henry was on earlier and said, hey, look, this is a guy who's probably feeling some pressure, kind of, I don't want to say lucked into the job, but obviously got the job last year after Chris Beard gets dismissed, off to a rough start, maybe in his emotions. What did you make of the entire scene, him cursing at the guys, and then that post press conference sort of rant or diatribe or whatever the hell that was?
It's kind of hilarious, to be honest. Like, as another player, that's the worst that you've heard. Like, another player and the banter that goes on during a game is 10 times worse, 10 times more direct, and 10 times more disrespectful. It happens literally every single game. I can go back to my high school days. When you play on the road in DC basketball, if you win, your fans all take out their keys and shake them, because that symbolizes that we got the keys to your house. So as far as disrespect and all of that and all that he said, I mean, the guy before really hit it on the head. Where are they going to get their spark from? And based on his press conference, it's clearly not going to come from the coach, because players see it. They know that like coach is really copping a plea, like just looking for some help, looking for some things to talk about them. But they know what is always decided is in between the lines. So if you have an issue, everything can be handled in between the lines. We already won.
Ben, were you surprised by any of the backlash that Texas got over all this kerfluffle and, coach's reaction to the horns down and all of that? I mean, I didn't see, obviously we're biased. We see a lot of UCF comments and, it's driven in that side, but I didn't see anything pro Texas, anybody defending them other than a couple of their fans. Were you surprised by that in any way?
I was not surprised at all. The funny thing is that they've had an issue with this before. They tried to do this with their administration in the SEC before coming to the conference to get people to get flags for doing the horns down. And the SEC administration said no, right? So everybody in the sports world knows when somebody looks soft for taking a loss and somebody looks upset for being 1-3. And yes, it is partially our fault, but it's not our fault that you just didn't win. Like, hey, that's why we come play the game. This will be no issue if you win the game. Every single sports person, coach, and basketball player talks about everything being decided in between the lines with competition. We can talk, we can jump up and down. If you don't like it, get a dub.
I mean, it was a coup, right? We won the game. They got the bad press, and, we get to look like the heroes.
I mean, in 2023, 2024, I feel like the coach got to know, like, this is going to go viral. And the part that makes it so sensitive is that I've watched games at Texas where they lose and people run to their student section and give the horns down. If you notice, the guys that are doing it are standing directly in front of where our tickets are. Like, those are the players' tickets. They're doing that to our little section of fans that they allow us to bring. It's not even like they took a lap around the court and did the horns down. So the coach made it 10 times worse than what it was. Like, half the people probably wouldn't even have noticed.
Have you ever had an opposing coach yell at you for something after a game, something similar to that?
Not that. I wasn't a big trash talker, but I got caught up in a moment in a scrimmage one time. Their bench was talking crazy during a game, during the scrimmage, and I just looked over. I think I said something to some guy on the bench, and their coach got mad. My coach took me out, reprimanded me, and one of my assistant coaches whispered to me, "Just save it for the regular season."
Did you save it for the regular season, or was that it?
No, I just didn't do it anymore. I mean, I wasn't a big trash talk guy, so I just, got caught up in the moment once or twice.
All right, Ben, we'll get you out of here on this. I feel obligated. I have to ask you every week a question about Ibrahima Diallo. I don't really have a question, though, about Ibrahima Diallo because, again, he's just a solid defensive force. So I'll give you as much time as you want to tell me how good you think Ibrahima Diallo is.
Oh, I think he's great. I mean, he's a monster. You could tell by how the guards play and how they're able to pressure that they trust him back there. He doesn't get in foul trouble. He makes marks plays. He hasn't turned the ball over. He's a huge physical presence. We're going to need him to be and play his best game ever against a Houston. But I think he's up to the task. He's looking like a guy that's been there, and it's showing with this play.
How important is it to have a guy like Mamadou Ndiaye on the coaching staff that's played the position, that is a big guy himself, that kind of knows kind of the ins and outs? How important is that to a guy like Ibrahima?
It's huge. It's huge knowing that a guy is not only telling you, but that he's been there before, right? So he can talk to the details. He can talk to the nuances of playing the position effectively because he's played it at the highest level. So I've been we used to do the practices and break up and do the bigs, and I would go down with the bigs pretty much every practice. And the stuff that he says and shows the guys, it's invaluable, and stuff that, I didn't even necessarily notice because I wasn't a big, but then you're down there with them and you're like, okay, that's a new angle or a new way of attacking things or a new way of defending things that only somebody at his level would know. So it's invaluable, and you can just see it from the growth of both bigs, Omar and Ibrahim.
And before you go, one last question. What are your thoughts on the Palm Prawns?
Keep it going. Keep it going. Keep it going.
All right. I love it.
All right, Ben, man, you're the best. We appreciate you. Let's get it. Let's get a dub Saturday, and then we got West Virginia on Tuesday. So hopefully we'll have you back next Thursday. We're celebrating a 2-0 week for UCF.
Hey, fingers crossed, man. Fingers crossed.
Again, the best dressed guy with all apologies, Eric Henry. Ben's at least got a tie on. Eric just went with a shirt and a jacket. Ben went full. I got to give Ben best dressed tonight so far.
Thanks. Yeah, it's because I don't have the arm problem that he has.
Can I get your real quick your fashion? Brian W. Peterson's wearing a shooting sleeve for no apparent reason. Can I get your fashion advice on random 39-year-old white man wearing a shooting sleeve?
Hey, man, stay ready so you don't got to get ready. I see what he's doing.
Look at that. See, I knew I'd like you, Ben.
He's also right-handed, and that's on his left hand.
Hey, some shooters have little cords to help them make it, but it is what it is. Let him get a ball in his hands. I'm sure he's going 10 for 10.
It depends on where that's from, Ben. But we'll try that next week, Ben. Thanks for hopping in, buddy. Appreciate you.
For sure. Have a good one, fellas.
See you, Ben. Brian, any chance you're going 10 for 10 from anywhere on the court?
Absolutely no chance.
Not even like a free throw, not even a layup, not even.
I don't even know if I'd hit 50% of those.
Wow. We got to get your video. A, I got a videotape that. B, we got to get your game up. All right. Hey, did either of you know we have a new professional volleyball team coming to Orlando, the Orlando Valkyries professional volleyball. They will tip off. Is that the word we use? Serve off. I don't really know the jargon there. January 26th, 7 p.m. They're playing at Additional Financial Arena against the Atlanta Vibe, coached by our former head coach, Todd Dagenais, and our intrepid reporter, Trace Trelko, trekked on down to whatever the hell it is these people are practicing and met with Abby Hansen, a former UCF volleyball player who will be potentially on the Valkyries. And here's a quick clip of an interview that's now available on our YouTube channel.
I was ecstatic. I mean, just be able to stay in this like UCF hometown kind of area. I mean, we play at Addition Financial, so I'm very familiar with the area. It was honestly a dream come true for me.
Dream come true for her, and maybe a dream come true for all of you. We have a contest, a ticket giveaway. The Valkyries have been very nice to us. Here's what we have for you. We have 5 packs of giveaway. So this pack includes 4 tickets, a t-shirt, and a $10 food merch credit. So you and 3 of your friends get some gear, some food, get to watch some professional volleyball as we take on the Atlanta Vibe. So if you're interested in these tickets, again, the game is the 26th. Get in our DMs here at Sons of UCF, or you can DM Trace directly at SignPez and let us know that you were interested, and you may get a chance to see the Valkyries play at Addition Financial Arena. Mike, do you remember this guy?
¿Qué está pasando, Night Nation? What's happening, Night Nation? It's proud UCF alum, your favorite Spanish radio broadcaster, Leo Rodriguez. Let's go around the kingdom.
Leo is now the Around the Kingdom voice. Things have come full circle. Gentlemen, congratulations. We all attended a national championship winning school, the 4th national championship for UCF cheerleading. Brian, I'd love your breakdown of the game, the contest winning routine.
It's about time we brought him another national championship in cheerleading. We are,
okay.
Everybody that knows UCF knows that we are a cheerleading powerhouse.
Quite the breakdown I was looking for. More good news for UCF, the Roth family. An undisclosed amount of money going towards the Football Gateway Project, which could mean Lazy River time. Mike, how excited are you for Lazy River gating? I know you're excited about this.
I can't wait to be floating around on a raft with a nice IPA in my hand around 2 o'clock, getting ready for a 6 o'clock kickoff. That's a dream come true for me.
Mike is happy. Softball may be happy. Picked 5th in the Big 12 coaches poll, the top ranked of the newcomers. So we'll see how UCF fares there. UCF not faring as well on the women's basketball side. Now 0-5 in conference after a tough, heartbreaking loss to West Virginia. Doesn't get any easier. Saturday at Baylor. Things are looking pretty tough there for the women's team. Mike, I know you are a big fan of Around the Kingdom. You never miss an episode. If you missed this one, you may have missed a clip where Eric Lopez's voice does things I've never heard it do before.
I mean, that's what hurts about the BYU loss. Now you got to play at Texas. You got to play at Houston. I mean, oh man, this league, there's just no breathers. This is a league right now. By the way, according to many metrics, UCF has the top 5 toughest schedule in the country remaining left in the country in a league that has 8 top 25 teams, Trace. 8 teams projected for the tournament.
Not sure what happened to Elo's voice there, but if you missed Around the Kingdom, check out the YouTube channel also on your podcast feed. Mike, you and I this week had a chance to talk to Jason Johnson. We had an hour out of him, which seems like some sort of a record. A lot of people are talking about one of his comments about a Twitter user, but I thought this clip was interesting, especially as you think about the news with Ted Roof joining us.
I feel like we just changed them. We changed our fits and keys so much. Like we changed them every week. They would just like, if we change for one call, we change for every call. Like we just gotta change our alignments and everything. We were just changing it week by week, but especially for the linebackers, we just kept changing. So it was tough.
Kept changing, and it was tough. And if you change your podcast out of Sons of UCF, you can catch that entire interview. You can also find it on our YouTube channel as well. Guys, did you know that Trace apparently ran a poll this week? I didn't see this poll, but apparently he ran a poll about running backs and wanted us to grade the running backs A+, A minus, B, or worse. A came out the winner, 55%. Mike, is this factually accurate per the Trace Trelko system of measurement?
I don't know what kind of poll this is. A+, A, or A-. This is nitpicking at its finest, my friends. I don't know. Yeah, everybody thought the running backs were good because RJ Harvey was good.
Great analysis, Mike. Brian, you are one that deals in statistics and measures. Is this what do you do with this?
I mean, I'm not surprised by the results, right? I mean, I didn't see this poll, so I'm kind of surprised that, this is the first time I'm hearing about it. But I mean, to Mike's point, I mean, the options there are a little skewed, right? I mean, A+ or A minus. I mean, obviously Trace is telling us what he thinks.
Let's put a poll out this week. How do you like UCF Mike on Sons of UCF? Fantastic, incredible. What kind of options are these?
Those are my only options, Mike. Speaking of UCF, Mike, what's interesting about this is I don't know how this happened, but we have UCF Mike here. He's fantastic. He does a great job. Somehow we might have found UCF Mike Jr. If you haven't seen anything from Clay Pasco, he looks like UCF Mike reincarnated, only 20 years younger and with much more hair than Mike has now, although I wouldn't challenge him to this. Each week, Clay is providing us a look back at a game during the season. This week, Clay is back with UCF versus Villanova.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Clay's Corner, where today we have the Villanova game. Ever have trouble remembering the games? It's been a long season. Can't really blame you if you do. Do you not have 3 hours to devote to go watch the entire game? I'm going to summarize UCF's entire game in about 1.5 to 2 minutes. Let's get started. Villanova. We won. pretty easily. Timmy McClain started the game at quarterback for us since JRP was hurt from the Boise State game. We start with the ball even with this weird camera angle. Thank you, ESPN Plus. We really appreciate this. Colton Boomer kicks field goal to go up early. Jordan McDonald wildcats his way into the end zone to make the score 10-0. Then Nakai Martinez gets a pretty nifty pick to give us the ball back. Jordan McDonald again wildcats his way into the end zone. Trymon Morse-Brash gets a big boy sack like the man he is. Kobe Hudson gets the ball in his hands and takes to the house to go up 31-0 before the half, but gets called back because of a block in the back. Timmy makes up for it by giving the ball to Javon Baker, and he delivers it to the house. RJ Harvey gets one more touchdown to show Villanova who's boss. Also, Jalen Griffin gets into the game and gets tonight's another touchdown onto the board. There's just no way that a powerhouse school in the state of Florida loses to an FCS team, right? Wouldn't happen.
There's a young UCF Mike, and Clay Pasco does great work. Make sure you follow Clay on Twitter. He's actually a pretty fun follow there as well. Appreciate Clay for doing all that stuff for us. All right, anybody know what time it is?
It's time. Time for the Sons of UCF Mailbag, presented to you by The Agenda.
Only because you're here. You're here, Brian.
Do it right. He doesn't.
Only because you're here, though. Like I think I don't want to get like too much like Brian fatigue. You're here. I don't want people to. Yeah, exactly. So, all right, let's start with our first one. This comes from Emptiness. Mike, how long were you banned on Twitter? Emptiness wants to know.
Ooh, I got banned. All right, at the same day we lost to Kansas, I believe, which was like October 8th, 10th, something like that. And I just got back on this past Sunday. So it was about 3 months. I took a break from Twitter. And
how long until you're banned again is his follow-up question.
Well, I put the over-under at a week and a half. Right now we're at, day 5? So, I'll see what I can do. I kind of liked being banned. Added a little mystique. But now I'm back, and I'm back to my usual antics.
I heard that Elon reached out to you directly and apologized for the ban. Is that true?
He did. He told me not to talk about it too much, but yeah. There was a little negotiation to try to get me come back.
Well, that seems cryptic. All right, Brian, Scott 88513. Where does the win against Kansas rank amongst the biggest wins in school history?
Ooh, in school history or in basketball history?
This says school history.
School history.
Let's go. So you can chime in. Mike had this thing in the podcast. The top 4 wins on campus. So let's just think of events that have taken place on campus. Is the Kansas win in that Mount Rushmore?
Top 4? It's certainly going to be up there, but let's see. We've got College Game Day, that win. We've got, our first conference championship. I guess you could put it on the Mount Rushmore. I guess it could be in the top 4. I don't see why not. You know what? Recency bias. Yeah, let's go ahead and throw it on there.
Compelling podcast. Mike, this is off script. Patrick Nurse wants to know, did you learn any new hobbies with that time away?
Hobbies? No. I can't say what I did. Well, I joined Facebook again. Does that count?
Probably not. Brian, at Hugh C. Heff, the Kingdom NIL wisely used UCF's win against Kansas to fundraise. Why do you think UCF Athletics chose to support the Collectives campaign rather than raise funds for UCF Athletics?
Well, I think the Collective is, driving the ball or driving the bus right now, right? We're going to have money going to the Collectives in order to bring players to UCF, and that's ultimately what's going to drive the success for athletics. So in the new NIL era, the Collective is going to reign supreme.
Mike, this one's for you from the Real SOTG. Do you feel sorry for all the Fire Dawkins zealots, which may or may not have included you?
I don't feel bad for those guys. I feel bad for the people that are not going to apologize and take it all back like I did last week. I took it back. I'm on the Dawkins train now. So he can do no wrong, and he proved me right again this week with the win in Texas last night. So everybody is entitled to their opinion, but you're also responsible for your opinions and say, hey, I was wrong. And right now we all look like we were wrong.
Brian, at Two Letters, Two Words, wants to know, what do you think of Coach Dawkins potentially adding Mikey Williams to the team?
More firepower is always a good thing. I'm curious to see what's going to happen.
Phrasing,
with him.
Brian. Phrasing there. Phrasing.
Probably poor phrasing.
That
was not intentional.
Phrasing.
Whenever you can bring in a big name, whenever you can bring in a big name player like that, it's a good thing as long as Johnny can keep him. I don't want to say controlled, but out of trouble. I'm really curious to see if he's going to be able to play. I mean, I know there's questions about whether or not he's going to be able to play and play in the 23 season, but I'm curious to see if we see him in black and gold anytime soon.
More less questions about his rebounding than his shooting. Is that what we're talking about?
I'm just glad someone did say he's a good shooter. Mike, from the Real SOTG again, has UCF done enough in the front 7 on defense in the transfer portal?
Well, they certainly addressed the positions. We've gotten, I think every time we talk to each other, they added like 2 more linebackers. So the numbers are there. Now I just got to see how these guys actually play and how they transfer over to UCF. I mean, the potential is there. And now with the new defensive coordinator, new system, you can only be optimistic at this point.
Brian Riley Carey 16 wants to know, do we need more wide receivers or should we go after more cornerbacks?
After this week, I mean, we've been able to shore up the defense. We've gotten some pretty good transfers here. With Javon making his exit to the NFL draft, I might want to see another receiver or 2 at least added for depth. Why not both?
Look at this guy. Mike, a good friend of the show, Spursy Knight. Any major changes in the offense now that we have KJ Jefferson?
Jefferson being a much bigger quarterback than we've had the last few years. And I think maybe we've been a little scared to run. When Dylan was the quarterback, we didn't try to let him run too much. After Plumlee got injured this year, we tried to cut back on his running. I think we were going to see more of the quarterback designed runs.
Brian, UCF XOS, our friend Andy wants to know, what % of the team do you think could fight and take KJ Jefferson one-on-one?
What kind of fight are we talking about? I mean, are we talking about, sumo pushing the guy out, get some of those linemen to push him around a little bit? Are we talking about a fist fight? I mean, I'm not going to be squaring up with KJ Jefferson anytime soon. He's a big guy. I would say most of the team would probably be scared of him.
I think Lee Hunter takes him, yes?
Well, I guess it depends on the type of fight. If we're just pushing, push the man out of the circle like a sumo, yeah. All
right, Brian, you're a good political advocate here. I'm going to give you JP Gilbert's question, which is, Why was UCF sending more players to the NFL with lesser regarded talent than now with an alleged elite recruiter?
Well, you want the political answer. The political answer is that most of the players that got drafted were players that came from the Scott Frost era. And now Gus is just getting his players in here, and we're going to see players drafted later on down the road.
I don't know what that means.
Were those players lesser regarded because we were in the American at the time? Now we're supposed to be a Big 12 team. They're supposed to be better.
Yeah, but it's all statistics based too, right? So you're going to put up theoretically better statistics in the American than you would in the Big 12.
Sounds like a lot of math. Mike, this guy's name I cannot pronounce. I think it's OJTFEUDS. Can I get a season preview for UCF baseball, please?
We got a new coach. We got some new players. It's going to always come down to pitching. Pitching is what wins the games. I'm looking forward to baseball season. In fact, I was looking at tickets just this afternoon.
Limu Mar 407 wants an evaluation of the recent bowl games in Orlando, Brian. Hula Bowl, Cure Bowl, Pop-Tart Bowl, Cheez-It Bowl. Rank those bowls in order of excitement, in your opinion.
Well, going based off of the press that the Pop-Tarts Bowl got, I mean, the Pop-Tart literally went down into a giant toaster. I mean, I don't think you get much more excitement in bowl season than that. The Cheez-It Bowl, they did something very similar. The Hula Bowl is always fun for UCF fans to get out and see some players play in. And the Cure Bowl, classic, right? We've played in the Cure Bowl before. It wasn't at FBC Mortgage Stadium, but always a good one to get out to.
Hard-hitting analysis by Brian. I'm going to stay with you on this one, Brian, because I know Mike's answer to this. Golden Knight _2. What vehicle did you drive when you were a student at UCF, and where was your go-to parking spot?
Do you want the political answer, or do you want the accurate answer?
It's now after 9 o'clock. I think political talk should end. You have a shooting sleeve on. Shoot your shot, buddy.
Well, when I was a student, I was always I tended to take classes earlier in the morning so I could get on campus and get a parking spot. But when I became student body president, I got a Board of Trustees parking permit, so I could park anywhere at any time, parking spot or not.
You son of a bitch. I know. Mike and I were trekking our way through the dirt lots, hoping somebody would leave and hoping it didn't rain, and you just moseyed on up.
It was literally a gold hang tag that I would put on my car, and I would just...
Do you still have that gold hang tag?
I do not have that gold. I don't know.
Then would you turn it in? They don't trust you? That's fair.
No, it expired. Although I will tell you that I parked behind the student union at one point. I was in a rush to get somewhere, and I just pulled up and quickly parked behind the union, and a delivery truck backed into my car and took out my rear view mirror and left a nice 12-inch gash on the side of my door.
That's what you get. Were you parking in handicap spots too?
No, I didn't park in a handicap spot. I would never do that.
Could you have parked in like President Hitt's spot and gotten away with it?
That was the one thing they were warned about, was when you go to Milliken Hall, there is, several parking spots, and there's a parking spot that says number 1. And we were told, do not park in that number 1 parking spot because your car will be towed.
Whose spot would you have less want to park in? President Hitt or George O'Leary's?
I don't know. I mean, George O'Leary, I've seen him yell at some people. I mean, with President Hitt, you weren't going to get anything, right? They were going to tow your car and it was going to be gone. I could see O'Leary, standing outside waiting for you and giving you a good ear chewing for being in.
So you'd rather have your car towed than have George just rip you a new one?
No doubt.
Fair. That's fair. It's a good answer. All right. And we'll close with this, Mike. I saved this one for you. Clay Pasco, the previously mentioned Clay Pasco, wants to know, why can't I grow a quality mustache?
I wish I knew the secret to that, because I can't grow a quality mustache either. I grow a little bootleg mustache. It takes me about 2 weeks to kind of get a little thing going, and then my wife shaves it off when I'm sleeping.
I'm sorry, what? you don't? Do you not know that happens, or?
She buzzed me with a little electric while I was trying to take a nap. She did that one time.
Wow.
She hates the mustache. Anytime I try to get a mustache, she does not like it. The kids don't like it either. So that's why I do it like once every 4 or 5 years, just to get under their skin a little bit.
Bro, I don't feel like I can adequately ask any follow-up questions here. I don't know if you have anything you want to go with there.
Yeah, I mean, you're asking the three guys on the show that probably can't grow a mustache very well. I don't know about Adam. I've never seen him try to grow a mustache, but I certainly can. Trace can, right? He's rocked
Trace
a mustache
had like that
before.
full on like Boston Red Sox
Goatee.
beard for
Yeah,
a while.
yeah, yeah.
COVID Trace was wild with the. I mean, I could grow a mustache. It's not going to look good. It's like 4 different colors, and it'll take like a month, and it's pretty, pretty light color wise. But I could try it. I'm not going to do that though because I'd look like an idiot. But anyway, hey, thanks for listening in to Sons of UCF Live. Again, make sure you're following along everything that's going on around here. Website sonsofUCF.com, YouTube channel, all that good jazz. Trace is enjoying some time off, so he should be back next week, and we'll get this thing kind of riled back up again. But until we talk to you all, have a great weekend. Let's go Knights on Saturday. Beat Houston, and we'll talk to you all soon. Go Knights.
Charge
on.
P9 Nation, it's Gianna, also known as G Cupcake 17. Hope you all enjoyed this week's episode of Sons of UCF Live. Until next time, go Knights and charge on.
Got a Gabe Davis fan. Mike, who wins this weekend? Football.
Bills, Lions.
Brian, who wins?
Ravens.
Watch.
What's the other game?
I've given up hope. My Dolphins got knocked out. I don't really care who wins at this point. Go give me the Packers. They'll be an underdog.
I like
you had
the
to
Packers.
say that.
Packers.
Can we all just root for the Lions? You had to say the Packers, Brian. You son of a bitch.